What is good? Welcome back to the football show powered by Profit X. Week 5 is in the books. We had a little emergency pre-show here, so Big Co will not be joining today. Show's going to go on though. I'm going to try to power through. Didn't prepare for a solo show today, but we're gonna run through these games, give you some reaction, talk about it for a minute. You can assure that it'll be a little shorter without a co-host today. So, all right, let's jump into it. We have Minnesota, Cleveland, the first game, the 9 a.m. kick. We saw Dylan Gabriel for the first time, right? Didn't know what to expect. Chev and I had talked about it on the Wednesday show. Can he do it? Can he not do it? You know, in all things, obviously he doesn't get the win here. A last-second kind of comeback by the Vikings with a bunch of targets to Addison, who didn't play in the first half, I believe, for some disciplinary reasons, which maybe not the best sign ever. But the good thing I think you saw if you're a Cleveland fan is you saw some at least management of an offense, a little bit of juice. And as we've seen with maybe Dart and, you know, kind of the previous week, you can maybe get a one-game boost. So it'll be interesting to see if this carries over. It didn't quite seem like the Vikings were bringing as much heat as more as saying, hey, we're going to bring kind of our front regular and then kind of drift back in coverage. I'm assuming that's, was sort of the plan a little bit here. Let's just make them kind of beat us. But I thought it was decent from Dylan Gabriel, right? We talked about it, good completion percentage in college, played a lot of ball. Didn't seem like anything was too big for him. Didn't seem like he was, over his skis or anything like that. Went 19-33, 190 yards, 2 TDs. Njoku got involved, so that was good to see. If we could maybe bring up, Jerry Jeudy a little bit, and there were 8 targets for Bond, only 2 connections. So as things go, we'll be interested to see the Browns get back on American soil with Dylan Gabriel at the helm and kind of see how that progresses. But, if I'm a Browns fan, I'm not disappointed. We just need this defense to be able to get some rest. We need to be able to convert some first downs. This seems like a defense that can keep you in games within 17, 24-point range. So if you could just figure out how to get those kind of scores and some momentum and some rest for this defense, I think those are all positive things. And it looked like just some of the juice and belief in Joe Flacco had worn out. Gabriel can kind of move around a little bit, pretty accurate guy for the most part. Like I said, 7, I think he's got the record for touchdowns in the NCAA and the record, or at least FBS. And like I said, at Oregon, the last year was over 70% completion. So accurate guy who's seen a lot of football, and it was good to see him yesterday. So that was reassuring for the Brown side of things. Judkins had a big one called back. He looks like one of the best, if not the best, rookie running back of this class so far. We've seen Genty kind of get it rolling a little bit here late, but the Raiders are maybe definitely worse than the Browns at this point. So, all positive things there. We got Carson Wentz on the other side. Minnesota gets the win, which is, of course, important. And then they head into the bye after spending 2 weeks overseas, and they come back out. I'm drawing a blank who they got here. They have the Eagles kind of when they come back after that bye. So that's a big game. We'll see if Carson Wentz draws another start. He seems like the part of this offense that they should probably at least keep in for that Eagles game there. So, I don't know how I feel about Minnesota. I know Minnesota's got to feel a certain type of way about how well Sam Darnold's playing, but hey, sometimes you got to rip that Band-Aid off and sort of move on. So, but a nice win for Minnesota here to come out of there where it looked kind of dire at close to the end of that game, and a nice little comeback for Carson Wentz and the boys. Mason looked like he was a little banged up in there, came away and finished the game for him. So Vikings still plenty of hope as things move on. Browns, although a loss, Ravens also lose. The Bengals are awful. And, the Steelers were kind of on a bye, but they don't look unbeatable. So nothing out of reach yet. So if I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, still some hope here. Still some hope. So, all right. Shifting gears over to the Texans and the Ravens, 44-10, just a bludgeoning. Houston going into the bye week with a huge win, absolutely dismantling the Ravens. If you're a Ravens fan right now, you've lost all your teeth. There's no there's nothing left. What you always expected from this Ravens team was at least some fight in the defense. And, you just didn't really see that. And the last game, hey, you played Kansas City. It was a tough fought game. Kansas City's good. They came out, they beat you up a little bit. Hey, you come back this week, you got the Texans at home. We got Cooper Rush, decent backup. It was awful, man. It was tough to watch. They lost the screen at halftime to Carolina, Miami. So things aren't going well when you're losing screens to Carolina and Miami, although, actually a pretty decent game. So for the Ravens, if I'm a fan, we just kind of talked about it with Cleveland. You don't have a whole lot of hope necessarily, although the rest of this division still sort of open. If Lamar can come back after a game or two and you can rip off some wins, but I don't know where this defense is at. I have no idea where this defense is at. Mog says we're cooked in Baltimore. You very well may be cooked. When you have Lamar, and he's out there, I don't necessarily, you can beat a lot of teams in the league. But when you don't have a defense that shows up, that isn't your standard Ravens kind of situation, you might be in a little bit of trouble. Now they're missing a ton of pieces, so that's certainly part of this, right? You're missing a lot of pieces on defense, but Ravens come in here and it's certainly concerning. You've lost a lot of that teeth of what you've always thought of the Baltimore Ravens there. And on the Texans side of things, you come in, you get a huge win, and then you go into the bye week, right? You got Seattle in Seattle coming off the bye, but to get this win coming off a bye and CJ Stroud playing decent again, we talked about how bad this kind of defense was, but you just got to win at Tennessee. That's a division win, and then you get a win at Baltimore, which Baltimore certainly down right now. But you played Tampa close, and Tampa's good, and you lost 14-9 week 1 against the Rams. So as much as we thought this Texans team was kind of lifeless, you get 2 wins here and you carry it into a bye. Is it anything? I don't know. You have a tough schedule kind of coming up. You have Seattle, you have San Fran, you have Denver, and then Jacksonville. So a bunch of tough games. And then you got Colts and Chiefs still on the schedule, Bills still on the schedule, Bolts on the schedule, Indy on the schedule. So Indy twice on the schedule. They got to figure some things out, but it's a good time for the Texans to come in off a high note. You just beat up Baltimore and you slapped them good. And then you go into a bye. You can try to figure things out, get a little healthy, and come out here. And can you go get a statement win in Seattle there, bouncing back? I don't know. I really like Seattle. We saw Seattle kind of get a little, that defense not be quite where we want to see it be, but it's certainly possible. So I think CJ Stroud and Nico, and you saw Hutchinson get a couple of touchdowns yesterday. I don't really know how to evaluate this team coming off of that Ravens victory there, where they just look lifeless. So Ravens big loss, got some figuring out to do. Miami at Carolina, 27-24, kind of a back and forth game. Look, this was a sloppy 1:00 slate, but what we ended up seeing in Carolina and Miami was actually kind of fun. It was entertaining. I thought Tua was pretty good in this one. Bryce had some bad moments and then kind of bounced back and was able to drive the team. But really, Rico Dowdle was the star in this one, where the Panthers running game hasn't been awesome for most of the season. The Dolphins defense is meh at best. So Rico came out here, and Uncle Rico put up 23 for 206 and a touch. And every time I kind of looked at that screen, it looked like Rico was kind of getting one going. But good news fantasy-wise, if you're a Waddle guy, it looks like, hey, we're going to get things going. We're going to see, 8, 9, 10 targets game after game from here on out. And Darren Waller kind of bouncing back if he's hanging out on any of your squads. Might even be somebody you have to consider starting, judging, especially with the kind of landscape of where tight ends are right now for you. But Darren Waller looked good in this one, 5 for 5, 78 and a touch. And then Jalen Waddle, 9 targets, 6 receptions, 110 yards. That was fantastic. 7 more targets for Achane in this one. Had a nice touchdown grab. Not quite as much as I wanted to see from Malik Washington. I thought he'd be a little bit more of the game plan kind of moving forward. But shout out to Carolina for going in and getting this win at home. You're now 2-3. I still think these are 2 of the worst teams in the league currently. So, not a huge change there, but it was nice to see Carolina kind of bounce back and, kind of clean up where they were heading in that first half, because it looked like, man, Canales is really in trouble. And the leaderboard for first coach fired, Canales was starting to really lead up there and start to blink a little bit. So all right, Vegas at Indy, 40-6. Geno struggles again. I don't think there's a whole lot of positivity to be had in Vegas. You got that first win in week 1 versus the Patriots. I think that's a different story right now. If they play again, week 1's always wonky, takes a couple of weeks to kind of figure some things out. And, injuries and all those things, of course, play into it. But you expected Pete Carroll to come in here and try to help change this culture into something else. And right now it just looks bad. Geno doesn't look good. He's turning it over a lot. Their offensive line stinks. And the Colts are red hot. And when you kind of come through here and look at the Colts box score, Daniel Jones, 20 of 29 for 212 and 2 TDs. But it's not like Jonathan Taylor went off rushing. He scored 3 TDs. So that's awesome. But 17 for 66. And then, nothing to write home about in the stat sheet receiving wise. The Colts just came out here and figured out a way to just stay on the Raiders, and kind of was hopeless from the jump. Good to see Genty getting some targets. Good to see Genty kind of back to that stance he came in with. They tried to coach it out of him, but hey, he looks like you were questioning things when you first came in with Genty, and now I think things settled down a little bit of saying, yeah, Genty's the guy who we thought he was. The Raiders are just really bad, which was a valid concern for some people. I thought Chip and Pete would be able to kind of come in here and manage this offensive line a little better, make it look a little better than it has. But the Raiders are heading down the road to certainly one of the worst teams in the league. And it doesn't help that they're in a super competitive, super good division. And it's a bad time to be kind of rebuilding in there. So, Colts stay hot, really should be undefeated. I think Indy 4-1, obviously the loss last week, but I think they're one of the best teams in the league right now. So, all right, shooting over to New York, New Orleans. Geno gets to play all year, no matter what. I don't know. Maybe near the end of the year he doesn't. Maybe somebody swaps out there. Scratch. I'm not sure. So. Giants at New Orleans, 26-14. Dart really not awesome in this one. The juice, we kind of talked about it a few times. When you go out there and you get up for a big game and you beat the Chargers, which, we'll talk about the Chargers maybe losing their mojo a little bit here. A lot of the times you'll see bad teams kind of come back down to earth. And you saw that in this one. The Giants came back down to earth. I don't think the score is necessarily indicative of how the game went the whole time, but Dart struggled a little bit. They didn't really, 26 of 40, so they threw it 40 times with them, 202 yards, 2 interceptions, and 2 TDs. Rattler hit a bomb to Shaheed for 87 yards. It's a good chunk of his yardage. But Dart had 7 rushes, 55 yards. Scatabo, 15 for 59. They were kind of all over him. Look, losing Neighbors is going to be a big part and a big stunt in any quarterback development when you get the guy down there that you could just say, hey, he's down there somewhere. I'm going to throw it up to him. And one of the best receivers in the league. That's always going to be a devastating blow for trying to develop a quarterback. But, I don't think we can make any bones about it. The Giants, on first coach fired, theirs is right up there, and their GM is definitely gone. I can't see him staying. So, this is sort of a dumpster fire. There are some fun things to build upon with that defense and some okay offensive linemen. Scatabo's fun. They'll get Tracy back. Obviously, they have Neighbors. So, and I don't think this is an indictment of Dart. Look, it's his second game. He went down to New Orleans. I think the Saints are not a good team, but much better than their record reflects. It's usually kind of a tough out going there. But there's some questions about Alvin Kamara in the chat there. It doesn't look great right now for Alvin Kamara. You're not getting a ton of carries. You're not getting, some crazy amount of target share. 6 in this one, 4 for 28 in the receiving category. So a little tough for your Alvin Kamara shares to kind of start the season. It hasn't been kind of what you expect from him. And I don't know if that's getting any better. Does he get traded? I don't know. Does Kamara get traded? If so, right, look, for fantasy wise, from what do we got here? MD Rayo. Does Kamara get traded? If so, Kamara rise. I think you should be fantasy wise acquiring as much Kamara as much Kendre Miller as you possibly can right now. He looks really good when he gets his opportunity. I don't think that Kamara will be on this team next year. I don't know what the contract situation looks like. I could be looking that up while I'm talking right now. But everything I've seen, even in the spurts from years past when Kendre hasn't been injured, he's had some okay run. And now, from what we're seeing, from the little bits that we're getting them, they're getting them involved in each game. And he looks strong and looks like a very solid runner. So yeah, I think we should just be acquiring Kendre in any direction that we possibly can here. So I'm very positive there. A positive for the Giants, and they're going to need him, was Theo Johnson. 7 targets, 6 receptions, 33 yards, had the 2 TDs. Looks like somebody maybe moving forward that you could trust again in that the hellscape of tight end landscape that is this year. Theo Johnson looks like somebody who could be coming alive for you. Other than that, probably staying away from a lot of receiving options for the New York Giants here. Spencer Rattler continues to be, kind of the antithesis of what the Saints are. Plucky, tough to deal with. Is he awesome all the time? No, but 20 for 30 in this one, 225, a touchdown. Is he their long-term answer? I don't think so, but I want to give Kellen Moore, a little standing O, because I think he's doing a great job in his first year with, this seems to be kind of a year where the Saints have to pay the piper for all the years of kicking the can down the road. And I think he's doing a great job of, obviously the wins aren't reflecting it, but I think he's building something down there that is interesting anyway. So Dart was closer to, let's see, Big D. Dart was closer to those darts where you got to fit it between 2 plastic pieces than a sharp steel tip. Yeah, there was some spots yesterday where it didn't look awesome to me. But there was also some spots that looked really good, and the rushing upside is going to be there. And we kind of talked about that. That's what the Giants are going to need to be without Neighbors. They're going to have to be a rushing attack, check downs to Scadaboo. Tracy coming back will be a welcome addition. A little bit of Theo Johnson, and they're going to have to play defense, run the ball, get the ball out to the playmakers on screens and check downs, and let Dart kind of create and do some magic and build on this for next year. So Giants with a bit of a disappointing loss if you're a Giants fan from what you just did last time, but not necessarily what you want to see from Dart kind of in game 2. Detroit at Cincy, 37-24. Look, Cincy stinks. Detroit's on one. I owe Detroit an apology for thinking that, actually, I owe them an apology, and also I want to give them a giant standing ovation, because what they're doing right now is a very, very difficult thing to do. You lose both coordinators, a bunch of parts and pieces. You get dismantled on week 1, and then you bounce back, and you've looked so damn good from the beginning of things or from week 2 on, man, that you look like a buzzsaw. And I think they have Kansas City coming up this week. And so that's going to be a really fun matchup to see kind of where Detroit is. It's a really good defense in Kansas City. Not quite getting Rashee Rice back just yet for that game. But yeah, Chiefs, Sunday, October 12th. That's our Sunday nighter. So a really fun game there. We'll see where they're at. Since he stinks, they got to make some choices, make some decisions, see if maybe they can find some other option at quarterback. But man, oh man, all this tells me is maybe Joe Burrow just deserves a raise, right? Just, that's kind of where I'm at there. All right, let's play some Bills before we get to anything else. What is good? You know the phrase, the house always wins. Well, not anymore with our new sponsor, Profit X. Profit X is America's #1 sports prediction market. It's a peer-to-peer sports prediction market where users play against each other instead of a sports book versus the house. You will almost always get the best price on any spread, money line, total, or player prop, since you're playing against other people rather than the book. Looks and feels like a sports book, just with way better odds. So what are you waiting for? Go download the app and get to work. Use promo code FFD to claim up to $200 profit cast for all plays in the first 30 days while playing on sites. Terms and conditions apply. We've had a great time with Profit X here. It's been an outstanding sponsor. It's been a fun website to get to learn how to play on. Let's try to find something on this Monday night game that looks kind of fun here. Let's see. I'm going to kind of cheat here. Xavier Worthy coming in here, questionable. You could still get 4.5 on the receptions on Profit X here. I might take that and hope, maybe he doesn't play, or maybe the ankle keeps him away. So I'm taking a cheap way out on that one. If I had to pick one on this game, as far as the total, straight up. It's always tough when you get the hook 3.5. So Kansas City's going to Jacksonville, down maybe Xavier Worthy again. I'm going to say Kansas City wins by more than 3.5. They play good defense. They stop that good Jacksonville running game. And, maybe Trevor can do it, but I'm not so sure. So I'll go Kansas City minus 3.5 on that one. So anyway, let's get back to it. I think the game of the kind of week of the year of devastation has to be this Tennessee and Arizona game, right? 22-21, Zona, right? I mean, each year you come into here waiting for Arizona to just kind of make a move and be something different and do something different. And it's just not. It's the first 2 weeks you're like, oh, here we are. And then the same thing last year, right? We kind of had an inkling and a feeling of, oh, maybe we might be seeing something different. There's an attitude to this game, to this team. Gannon's got them playing hard. Kyler, love him or hate him, is tough to deal with when he's rolling. And then, it's 22-6, I think, at half, or 22-6 at half. And then DeMercado runs in a huge touchdown after just kind of a blanked third quarter, and just has a bozo move. And we've been seeing this a few weeks now, and I don't know when it'll end and when the coaches will just say, hey, cross the back boundary before you drop the ball, man. Like, what are we doing? You win this game, you come out of here 3-2, you beat the Titans, and you live to fight another day. Instead, everything flip-flops, and the Titans come back and get their first win of the season. They couldn't do anything, and then Cam Ward comes out here and has a great drive, a couple great drives. And then on top of that, you have the interception, fumble, touchdown. It just, everything went wrong for the Cardinals, and the Cardinals just doing kind of Cardinals things. And then, this just kind of comes back to, Kyler Murray sucks and the Cardinals suck. And, where is Marvin Harrison? 4 receptions for 98 yards in this one. And then it was really hot in the first half, and then, kind of just tailed off. But I mean, Trey McBride not crushing it either. 7 targets, 5 receptions, 41 yards. So not a super sexy offense here. You thought, by the way this game started, it looked like a rout by the Cardinals, and one more feather in the cap of the hierarchy of which coach to fire first, and Brian Callahan being at the top of that, which I still do think he probably now does reign supreme at the top, because he just doesn't seem like he's fit for long for this offense. But Tony Pollard had a decent day, 14 carries, 67 yards and a touchdown. But you kind of, at the end of this game, things got rolling for Tennessee, and you kind of got to see a little bit of what Cam Ward is and can do. Just an insanely well thrown ball to Calvin Ridley on the sideline down there. Couldn't have put it in a better spot, and Calvin Ridley coming away with a grab there, and that kind of was the icing on the cake, kind of put the nail in the coffin of Arizona there. So just an absolutely gut-wrenching, devastating loss for Arizona. And I feel like this, you got to go in and you look at yourself in the mirror and say, is this who we are? Can we get over this? Or is this just downhill from here on out, and things just continue to get worse? So anyway, on the Sunday night, let's look at the chat here. Let's see. Cincy coaching staff and GM need to be let go. They aren't helping Burrow when he's healthy. Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I could see wanting to let the coaching staff go. I don't necessarily love their coaching staff to begin with. Anarumo was kind of the odd man out last year, and look what he's doing in Indy right now. They kind of was their scapegoat, right? So, yeah, I don't love it. Maybe do something else. So I learned that I will not be a Survivor millionaire with the Cards choking that away. Still have some other stuff in smaller Survivor shots. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people probably feel your pain right now, Zach, and a lot of people probably had that as their Survivor. So Sunday night showdown, New England at Buffalo. I think you had a hell of a game here. What a way to end your Sunday night, where you kind of come into this one thinking, is this we just going to see Buffalo trounce New England like we've kind of seen recently, or we get the game that we saw last night where it's like, was this New England's coming out party? Diggs has started to kind of come alive for them, and offensively they need somebody besides like the Hunter Henry-esque type of player to do something. And if we can get this sort of performance out of Stephon Diggs, and Drake May was absolutely outstanding last night. Like, this is everything that they wanted him to be and more. He looked kind of like Josh Allen. Now, fantasy points wise, it didn't really come home to roost necessarily, but he was awesome, running around, making plays, making great throws. So, we talked about it in a prior show. Like, I don't think that this New England offense is going to be on some crazy rise by the end of the season, that they're just scoring a bunch of points and being super flashy, but they can keep building on these things. But what we are going to see is we're going to see this New England defense continue to build on things and get better and better and better. That's just kind of what Vrabel is. He's going to get that mentality built into his team. And I think New England from here on out might be a tough out week in, week out, right? I mean, obviously, like I said, that Raiders team week 1 got them. And then, the week 3 loss to the Steelers was a turnover fest from them, which they've seemingly cleaned up. Then they took care of Carolina, and now they just got a big win against a division rival on Sunday Night Football in front of the whole world. So that was kind of great to see. An island game where New England, I'm sure a lot of people still have PTSD of the New England Patriots just beating the dog snot out of the entire league for umpteenth years. But still no Travion Henderson really taking over, even though there was an early Ramondre fumble. The running game, nothing outstanding coming there. The Bills, on the other side of things, seem to kind of really, when things aren't going well, it seems to be really glaring that they don't have some outstanding playmaker on offense, at least from the receiver perspective. They kind of can do it with a bunch of parts and pieces and a bunch of guys who kind of can all do very similar things. But I think when things get tight, they don't really necessarily have a go-to guy. I don't know if that hurts them. And the defense right now, probably not playing at the top of its ability. But Dalton Kincaid, a shining bright spot. If you're a fantasy tight end owner of Dalton Kincaid, this looks good and promising. He's been pretty solid most of the year. You got a little Keon Coleman TD for your pleasure there. So that was nice to see, but not worried about the Bills long term. They're one of the best teams in the league, but this was very nice to see the New England Patriots come in here and Drake May kind of putting a stamp on, hey, I'm one of the best up and coming quarterbacks in this league. And I'm going to be tough to deal with kind of week in, week out. I'd like to see a little bit more of a running game kind of get going between Stevenson and Henderson, but that's neither here nor there. That'll come within time. But hey, their first round draft pick of Campbell with the short alligator arms there, doesn't matter. Stud, absolute stud. They showed him a few times last week, just last night, absolutely handling his business. So looks like they got themselves a tackle there for years to come. So biggest probably game of the week, maybe. I mean, obviously New England Buffalo turned into a very good game, but Denver and Philly. Denver went to Philly and comes out with the win. Controversial ending there with the roughing or the unsportsmanlike conduct, where Harvey was maybe fighting for some more yards. Braun came in a little bit late, and then the no call on Dallas Goedert there at the end of the game. I feel like that one could have kind of went either way. I kind of like that they kept the flag in their pocket. My wife's a big Philly fan. She didn't hate that call. She really hated the Braun call. But we kind of have been hinting at, is there a problem in Philly? And the receivers seem to take great offense to the problem in Philadelphia right now. I want them to do that quietly. I don't need them to do that publicly. They're winning. Obviously, they have a loss here, but they just don't seem to be that offense doesn't seem to be in sync consistently. I think it was 17-3 in the third quarter or so, and then like 4 or 5 straight punts from Philadelphia. That's just, you can't have that with the caliber of team that they are. Saquon just not able to get going at all during this season. Really, you haven't seen anything. Even Denver was kind of loading up with some run fronts. Even still, run the ball, give it to Saquon. Like at that point, when you're up a little bit there, 17-3, just go out there and see if you can make something happen. I credit to the Broncos, I guess. neither one of these games really turned the tide for me on how I feel about either one of these teams. I think the Eagles are still very good. The Broncos are a solid team. Bo Nix was fantastic in the fourth quarter. Finally got it going to kind of Cortland Sutton there. Evan Ingram had a TD that, was in a big spot for them. So, I don't know. Denver Broncos, tough division. I don't think that they're better than Kansas City. I don't know if they're better than the Chargers right now. The Chargers seem to have maybe lost a little bit of mojo, and we'll talk about the Chargers here kind of in a second. Barkley is a buy, in my opinion, key for them to get it going again. Yes, I agree. So do you think Marv's game? Do you think this was Marv's game to show he's ready to truly be the one for the team? It looked that way in the beginning of it. It looked like they were feeding him, and they were kind of trying to make an effort, like, hey, this is our guy. Let's get him going. Would have liked to see a few more catches from him kind of down the stretch here. Got a little conservative. But let's see. Eagles lose one game. People lose their minds. The Jets are 0-5. Jets fans are used to it. Joke of the NFL right now. Yeah, I don't think anybody should lose their mind over Philadelphia losing a game. Again, good team. I do have some questions on offense, and we've kind of had those questions week to week now. They just haven't been able to put it kind of all together for an entire game offensively. So, but hey, hats off to Denver, hats off to Sean Payton, hats off to Bo Nix. Great win for them. All right, let's keep it moving here. We got Tampa at Seattle. This was so much fun to watch. Defense was optional, and those uniforms, I petition that the Seahawks should wear those all the time. They were absolutely fantastic. A pleasure to watch on the screen. But Baker Mayfield is the most cold-blooded quarterback in the league right now, and I don't think there's really any debate at this point. Seattle was leaking at the corner position. A bunch of guys went out throughout the game there, and probably helped the cause of Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But again, not at full strength either. Missing a key offensive lineman. They finally got Wirfs back, so that was huge. Missing Mike Evans, missing Bucky Irving. The ghost of Chris Godwin is out there, and Emeka Egbuka is they got themselves another dog. Me and Chev talked about, I don't know what show it was on, but I mean, the Bucs have been awesome at drafting receivers, and they got themselves another one. And Jalen McMillan is obviously missing time right now, but he had a strong rookie year, so they're set up for the future. They found their guy in Baker Mayfield. They found their guy in Bucky Irving. They found their guy in Emeka Egbuka. I think Jalen McMillan's good. So everything is trending in the right direction for the Buffalo Bills and for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I think, I've spent a few of those first weeks, a lot of buts with the Buccaneers, but you got to put the respect on the Bucs name at this point. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like I said, Baker is the most cold-blooded quarterback in the league right now. He's just a straight-up killer. He's really hard to deal with. Rashad White came in and, while not necessarily effective on the ground, was solid in the receiving game. And then I saw this was my favorite tweet of the football season so far. My guy Felix Sharp, he says, "Man, Emeka Egbuka has not had enough separation on any of his 5 receptions for 129 yards through 3 quarters today." Just a nice subtle shot at the separation elitists, but where it just really doesn't matter. And Egbuka is, a lot of people have talking about, if you don't tell people to go sell high. If you already told people to sell high on Egbuka, just don't sell high. And don't sell. He's awesome. He's an absolute stud. But on the flip side of this, the Seahawks didn't win. They've actually been a lot better on the road recently, which is an odd thing for how good the Hawks' Nest has been consistently over there. But they've been letting a lot of visitors in that stadium, it seems, as of late. They flashed it up on the screen during the game that how much better they've actually been on the road. But I loved the idea of Sam Darnold coming into the season, and they didn't win this one. Sam Darnold plunked one off of a helmet, and Levante David came up with an interception that helped Baker and the boys go down and win this game. But both quarterbacks throwing for over 300 yards. I think it was like 7 or 8 drives that ended in touchdowns. It was or scores. It was a lot of really fun football to watch there. Kenny Walker and Sharbs were both playing really well. Kenny Walker had 10 for 86. That's 8.6 if you're scoring at home. And then, Sharbs got the TD in this one. But I posed the question to the group chat while we were watching this game of like JSN has got to be close to, if not inside or right outside the top 5 of best receivers in the league right now. Obviously, we just gave Egbuka his flowers, and what he's doing in his rookie year is awesome. But I mean, JSN's the number 1 over there. The volume's there. Sam Darnold loves him. The talent's there. Like JSN needs to be on more radars as one of the elite wide receivers in the league. And I don't think outside of like fantasy circles, I don't know that enough people give JSN the flowers that he deserves. And Sam Darnold is playing absolutely fantastic this season. And coming into it, I thought this might be a thing because the system that he's playing in is very akin to the system that, he kind of turned his career around in San Francisco. And so, the deep shots to JSN are on fire. Them boys seem to love each other. So I just think, outside of the fantasy circle, more people need to put more respect on the name of JSN kind of moving forward. But 2 really good teams here, two teams that I don't even think are at the peak of where they can be. Both teams are really tough outs. I don't think you want to see either one of them on your schedule right now. But, another win, another gutsy, gritty win for Tampa Bay. And shout out to them. They're definitely going to they got to move up a spot or 2 in the power rankings for sure on the Wednesday, Thursday show. So, all right, let's shoot over to Dallas and the Jets. If you're just joining us, co-host Big Co, unable to join, had a little bit of an emergency before the show started, so wasn't necessarily prepared to do this as a solo show, so I'm just trying to slug my way through it for you guys. So I appreciate you guys sticking around and hanging out. I know this isn't what you necessarily come to sign up for. Would have prepared a little differently had I known I was rolling solo. Would have had a bit more of prepared statements instead of ready for an open-ended kind of conversation with the boys. So we got Dallas and the Jets here. Kind of coming up here, and producer Alex is a Dallas guy, so I wanted to call on him here and have him come in and give us your thoughts on this 2-0 Dallas team here over the last 2 weeks.
Hey, 2-1, get it right.
2-1,
got that tie in there.
Yeah,
man. Hey, we're not losing, so I'm happy about it, and we got a run game. That's for damn sure. Javonte Williams, this guy is just shutting me up left and right every week. I was wrong all offseason. I thought the guy was done. I didn't see any juice in Denver, and he's just week in, week out balling all over every team that's in front of us. It's pretty crazy to see, and I love to see it, honestly, man. So shout out to Javonte. Hopefully he gets a contract after this prove it year, man, because 135 yards, 16 attempts. He's got the touchdown for us. And that's helping us because we don't have a CeeDee Lamb, right? You were just talking about some teams that are struggling to have some playmaker. I mean, Javonte Williams, look at that 66-yard long there, man. Like, it's not just only
right.
ground and pound, but he's bringing that thunder while just giving us a little bit of something everywhere, man. So I'm loving what I'm seeing. Jake Ferguson, he's back again after last season getting us no touchdowns. He's got 3 touchdowns in the last 2 games. So we got 2 this last game, just starting it off for us, ending it off for us.
Chat says you need a little more volume on the mic.
A little more volume? Yeah, well, hey, jump in. Let me know what your thoughts are here, and I'll fix that real quick.
Yeah, no, it's been, I'm always, I don't hate too many players. We do a lot of fantasy stuff, so you have to take a kind of an opinion of who you like more, and that's always kind of how I look at it. I don't look at it as, hey, this guy sucks. I look at the situation and things and kind of say, all right, when we're kind of putting these guys in an order, I like this guy more because of X, Y, and Z. And Javonte Williams was easy to kind of forget, but at the rate where he was this year in the like 10th round or wherever you were getting him, I know me and Sheva did some battles over him, and point was kind of, I think, where the Cowboys were. If this works out, great. If it doesn't, whatever. We didn't pay him a whole lot of money, and it's just kind of was the same for fantasy. And I think a big key to this is your offensive line playing pretty well after losing some guys who had been around. Zach Martin and who's the tackle that was forever there.
Frederickson. You're thinking Tyron Smith is what you're thinking.
Tyron Smith, yeah. And I mean, Biotish was good.
We're basically replacing, and I don't know if the audio is better, but we're basically replacing that whole elite offensive line that we had, and that's been the priority in the draft. That was where our first draft pick went to, Tyler Booker, and the coach said before he made any moves, when he first got hired, he said he wanted to be more physical in the run game. So I think all the moves have kind of gone towards that. I think, like I was trying to say earlier with Javonte, I just couldn't see him in the offseason. They were hiding him, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is kind of like a secret weapon for us because we didn't see him at all, whether that was letting him just rehab as much as possible. So, man, this line is a big strength. You're seeing Dak back there not getting touched. Not to speak on old stuff, but in that Parsons game, he only got sacked in overtime.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that long for that to happen. So they're protecting Dak, and we had just guys stepping up without CeeDee Lamb, Ryan Flournoy, a guy that some people were early on last year, and now he's getting an opportunity. You see Jalen Tolbert, no catches here, so a lot of people thought that would be the guy who would step in as that 2 role, but it ends up being Ryan Flournoy and Jake Ferguson, who we expect to be there. So, yeah, man, this team, they've shown, hey, you might have to score 30, 40 points every week, and they've shown that they can do that.
They're capable.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Flournoy was a nice surprise there. Pickens got in the end zone late. But we've kind of talked about in the last show and on some other shows during the week of the having to move George Pickens around a little bit, I think is going to be big for this team, kind of with CD coming back. Maybe this defense can figure some things out kind of down the line here of kind of who they are. And I know Eberflus is kind of like that cover 3 guy, bend but don't break. They've been breaking it quite a bit, but as things go, I think they have a chance to get a little better. Also, you have some picks in your back pocket that if things are going well, maybe you do acquire somebody later in the season to kind of sturdy that thing up. So
absolutely.
I gotta love on Dak Prescott here, because when you're the Cowboys quarterback, when it's raining, it's pouring, but he's playing some really, really good football right now. And you could say it's the Jets, but it's been consistent through pretty much this entire, season. Outside of that, I didn't think he played particularly well in the Giants game. But did enough to score enough points, and it was a dogfight, and he, it kind of is what it is. You get out of there with the dub. And then, you tie the Packers, but that's an elite, or at least what we thought was an elite team. So there's some big little wins in here for the Cowboys along the way.
Yeah, man. So it's not over yet. I'm hoping that this is going to encourage the front office to make some kind of move to help this defense. Like, you can't just get rid of Micah Parsons, think it's going to be okay. Like, give me Trey Hendrickson. Sorry, Bengals, y'all don't need him. Throw him our way. And we'll be good. We'll give you a little first-round pick. How about that?
Yeah. The Cowboys got Panthers coming up, which, should be a nice win. And
yeah, it's a revenge game for Rico Dowdle, who just balled out last night. So hopefully he just kind of chills out and cools off there. I didn't think I'd be saying bring Chuba back because God dang, he was like a madman possessed. Yeah, and if you want to roll here with Jets, I think a lot of us have some of these guys in our leagues, but, the big question for the Jets was, do they have a quarterback? Like, they're trying to build a whole new team from scratch, basically, with the new coach here. Honestly, Fields doesn't generally put up yards like that, so this is, again, probably a product of the defense. I know there was some garbage time there. The Cowboys actually did keep these guys kind of stifled most of the game, I would say, for the most part. But Fields kind of has a clean game. They just can't get it done for the most part. I do like to see Brees Hall getting over the century mark here.
Mm-hmm.
No touchdowns in the run game. This is their first game without Braylon Allen, who is on IR. I thought we might get some more help from Isaiah Davis, but it was really just 100%, 99% the Brees Hall show there.
Yeah.
And Mason Taylor, though.
Yeah.
What do you call that? You call that a breakout? Last week he had a good game too.
Yeah, last week he had a good game, and if you watch the rookie show with our guy Joseph from Quality Stats, there he kind of put an emphasis on Taylor and the P Whopper and some things kind of indicating that Mason Taylor, might be the guy to be kind of the other guy on this team moving forward. And here we had kind of the big breakout with 12 targets, catching 9 for 67. So they need it. They need somebody else outside of Brees and Garrett Wilson. And Brees had, a fumble that he lost and another fumble that they recovered. And so there was definitely some turnovers there, but Brees has just continued to look good all season. I think Brees Hall is going to be a San Francisco 49er next season, if I had to guess.
Oh, just Saleh went over there, and now Saleh's like, let me go get Brees Hall.
Him and Purdy playing together in college. Yeah. They, CMC.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yes.
CMC still looks good, but I mean, they're going to be looking for another playmaker, I think, to kind of do things that CMC has done throughout his career for them. And I think Brees Hall is kind of a carbon copy of what obviously you can say what you want, or maybe he's not on CMC's level quite, but he could do a lot of those similar things for you. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Brees Hall ends up in San Fran next season.
Awesome, man. Hey, appreciate you having me jump in here.
Yeah.
Hey, it's only week 5, guys. Hey, good luck this next week. Go crush it.
Appreciate it, Alex. Alex stays crushing. He produces the live show for us here on Mondays. Figured I'd have him hop in, talk about a little bit about his Cowboys. But yeah, I mean, as far as Big D said in the chat, I know some people didn't love the Schottenheimer kind of rollover bring in, but I have to agree, man. This is looking very good. He's getting the best out of this offensive line in this run game. I think they brought over the Cardinals offensive line coach to be their OC, I believe, if I got that correct. So that could be paying some dividends for them. So yeah, you got to give Schottenheimer some love here if they can just tweak this defense just a little bit. But they seem like they're equipped to win shootouts in the run games there. Honestly, man, they got Commanders after Dallas does. They have the Commanders after they have that Panthers game. So hopefully they don't kind of overlook Carolina and it's a weird upset or something. But like that Commanders game, if they can come in there and get a win, I think that would be huge for where the Cowboys projection kind of for the rest of the win confidence wise in that division. Cause honestly, I don't, the Eagles are very good, but where the Eagles are, like they have flat spots in games. So I think with the Cowboys offense, they can fight enough in there. And we kind of saw it on the back half of week 1 where they started coming alive. They've kind of fixed some things. They slowed some stuff down. So I don't think the Cowboys are I don't think the Eagles come right in and run over the Cowboys either. So Cowboys have themselves in quite a precarious position here that really could be catapulted forward of like, man, the Cowboys are kind of tough to outduel. So I like it. And then as far as the Jets go, like Alex just said there, they're trying to figure out a lot of things. They basically brought in a whole new team. They're trying to figure some things out, redefine a culture. The Jets have been trying to do this for years. Rex Ryan's did it for a minute. And with an elite defense, Glenn's trying to build himself a defense and a run game. And when things are going well, and I think they can play the game that they want to play this year with Fields, I think that they have a chance and it can look good. And it looked all right to start this game, and then some fumbles and some turnovers. And then once they start sputtering though, it's all bets are off for the Jets. It just seems to be really tough for them to overcome, when they're, especially anytime that they're shooting themselves in the foot. Like good teams can overcome that. Sometimes teams like the Jets, not so much. So Dallas gets a win in New York. 37-22 was a much bigger deficit of a game than that really showed. All right, we got 2 more games we're going to talk about before we wrap it up. We got Washington going to the Chargers. And I've been giving the Chargers so much love to start this season, and Herbert so much love to start this season. And I kind of mentioned it with the Arizona game. You know, the Cardinals are going to Cardinal. The Chargers are going to Charger, I guess. You know, and I don't think this 27-10 score is necessarily indicative of how that game went. This game really, the tide turned on a roughing the punter play that really just, I feel like this game was potentially running in a different direction for the Chargers. Obviously down some players, but everybody's down some players, you know, throughout the league here. But down your 2 tackles who are very good players. Then you lose Hampton in this one, which is, you know, obviously another blow. You're already down Najee. You got Vidal in there kind of filling in. Be interesting to see kind of how the Chargers play that running back position from here. And hopefully, you know, Hampton's not actually hurt, but he was in a boot after the game. So maybe he misses a week or 2, or maybe he's able to go next week. I don't know. But shout out to the Commanders, because I've been kind of questioning where and who the Commanders are this year. And I still don't know if the question's necessarily answered. I don't think Jaden Daniels completely healthy. He looked like he was gimping around on the sidelines for parts of that game. But, you know, shout out to him. Got to give the Commanders love for going on the road, although, you know, SoFi, not the toughest place to play. But Herbert was 22 of 29, 166 yards, touchdown, and a pick. Near the end of that game, a ball gets tipped in the end zone, and the Commanders pick it off. But before that, they ran a play on first down in a sequence where, hey, they needed 2 scores to kind of get back in it. And they ran a play, and QJ was wide open, and Herbert went the other way to Keenan and didn't get it. Then they ran it, and then they threw a pick. And that was kind of just where that game kind of, you know, flipped on its head and was completely over. But shout out to Krosky Merritt, had an excellent game, looked very explosive. They've been kind of seemingly not wanting to let him have the reins and be the guy so far. But this game, we did see, you know, a nice difference in carry threshold between Rodriguez, McNichols, and Krosky Merritt, and just the explosiveness with Krosky Merritt was evident. And we've been kind of waiting for this. And here it is. And fantasy wise, I haven't been wanting to trust him in a lineup. I did throw him in a lineup this week because I really didn't have a whole lot of options because of some injuries, and it really, really paid off. I don't know if we'll have 111 and 2 and a ton of more games this season, but I think it's safe to say that I would be willing to play him next week and kind of see how it goes. I'm not leaving him on the bench sort of anymore. Shout out to Deebo Samuel, who I think a lot of people left for dead, and really in the absence of Terry McLaurin, there hasn't been a bigger deal for a team than a Deebo Samuel right now, because he's really helping them get through this stretch. You know, they missed Terry through training camp. Terry came back, really hadn't been a huge factor in most games, and then now out again. And Deebo just stepping in, 11 targets, 8 receptions, 96 yards, and a touchdown. He looks awesome. He, you know, going back to his Sam Fran days when Deebo was on, he was kind of that engine that put on Sam Fran. I think he can kind of give the same thing with the Commanders, because what the Commanders are, when Jaden Daniels in there, they're extremely difficult to stop in the run game. If Krosky Merritt can be as explosive as we just kind of saw him be, and then you throw Deebo in there, you know, this kind of gives you a little bit of reminiscence of how the 49ers can operate a little bit. Obviously, you have an extremely talented rusher of a quarterback. I don't know if he's quite back to where you necessarily want him to be rushing around a ton, but he ran in this one. He had eight rushes for 39 yards, but doesn't quite look back up to the standard that we expect Jaden Daniels to be at. But Deebo is awesome. I was kind of hating on him for a lot of the off season, and then kind of right before the season started, kind of coming around to where the price tag was and what he could be if he was healthy, and he looked good. And then I just wanted to give Luke McCaffrey a little bit of love here. He seems to kind of be just hanging around, making some plays, kind of in the background, just somebody to pay attention to, because we know there's good Levi's there, some really solid genes, and he's kind of the young Padawan. We got Deebo there. We've had Terry there. He's just kind of lurking around in the background. Zach Ertz is a little older, so he's had a bunch of older guys. He's got a good pedigree. Luke McCaffrey, somebody to keep your eyes on, and just kind of file that away for later use of Luke McCaffrey being maybe a solid contributor for the Commanders in the not so distant future. I'm not saying next game, next 3, or even really by the end of the season, but maybe coming into next season, he's somebody that they lean on and is a bigger part of the plan kind of moving forward. You got a little bit of a lad game. He had that punt return that got called back. That looked good, but 5 receptions, 39 yards, and a touchdown for him. So Chargers got to get back to it. They've seemingly lost a little bit of their mojo. Let's see who the Chargers have next week. Let's see here. Chargers have they get Miami next week, so that should be a nice little potential get right game. And then they come and they got to play Indianapolis, so they should be able to get past Miami, get right, and then go in there and play the Colts. But then they have Minnesota and Tennessee, 2 very winnable games. So there's some wins on the schedule that are very possible for the Chargers. We need to see them bounce back, and they're definitely going to be affected in the power rankings because they don't look on the elite level that I had been, the pedestal that I had been putting them on. So disappointing loss there. If you're a Chargers fan, it feels like the same old story right now. So that's quite a bummer. If you're Jalen Lane too from Dollar Bill there. Yeah. That's unfortunate, but if you're a Commanders fan, this has got to get you excited. Jay Daniels back in the fold. Didn't seem to really hopefully do anything to re-injure that. And of course we want to see as much Jaden Daniels on the field as we possibly can, because it just makes football that much more fun. All right. Last game of the week was the Thursday game, San Fran at LA, 26-23. Look, I don't think the Niners had any business winning that game. A couple of questionable decisions by the Rams. But at the end of the day, 25 injuries on the roster for the San Francisco 49ers, and they're able to come away and be 4-1, 3-0 in the division. So many young players on defense. They're without Brock, they're without Ricky, without George, without Juwan Jennings. They can't run the ball. Christian McCaffrey is catching a ton of footballs, but this has been the story week after week. Like, a lot of carries for 3 yards per carrier. And this one, it was 2.6. Not characteristic of where the 49ers are. So they've got to figure out this run game. They're not terribly unhealthy on the offensive line. And the guy who stepped in for Barch is a rookie out of Iowa he's been playing actually fairly decent. They're not running the ball extremely well. I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more Brian Robinson taking some load off Christian McCaffrey, but he's a big part of what they need to be able to do right now because they are so depleted in so many categories. But other than not being able to run the ball at a high clip like you're used to San Fran kind of being, Christian McCaffrey has been outstanding this season. He's been kind of everything they need him to be. Kendrick Bourne stepped up in this one, was actually catching the ball, had some huge plays. Him and Mac have some history going back to New England. 11 for 10 for 142 yards. So you just got guys next man up kind of thing. To be fair, Shanahan has kind of dominated McVay for a lot of their career. McVay's been better as of recent. But they've got a long history with each other. Matthew Stafford is so good. How you run that 4th and 1 play. I know this is old hat at this point and give it to Kyron there. I think you got to let Stafford handle it at that point. But not worried about it with the Rams. I think the Rams are a really, really talented football team. The NFC West is going to be a tough division because even with the Cardinals not being as good as we think the Cardinals are, they usually play a lot of these in-division teams, pretty tough. So as far as Mac Jones versus Brock Purdy thing, just stop it. That's not a thing. Brock Purdy's the Niners quarterback. Brock Purdy offers a whole lot of stuff that Mac Jones doesn't offer. Mac Jones is the big thing that I think everybody was missing more so than Brock versus Mac was always a decent quarterback. He just has been put in shitty positions. Like year one in New England with the current coordinator that they have, he was a good quarterback, solid rookie year. And then they put a defensive coordinator in there and he stinks. And then, Bill gets out of there. Bill's ready to check out. We see how good Bill's doing, and then he goes down to Jacksonville. He's playing with the Jaguars, who had a lame duck, Doug Peterson, at the end of the year, and he's just kind of chucking around. He goes over to San Fran, a stable organization who knows how to treat and groom a quarterback. And look where we're at here. Mac Jones is going to get him. He does have a 2-year contract with the Niners, but Mac Jones is going to go get himself another starting job whenever the Niners are ready to be done with him. And, maybe there's a trade to be done before the season even ends this year for Mac Jones. Who knows? I don't think they should do that. I think they need to keep Mac Jones on this roster. But very, very impressive win for the San Francisco 49ers. For the San Francisco 49ers to be 4-1 right now is absolutely absurd. Again, I don't think they should have won this game, but they're doing what they got to do, and they should potentially get Mustafa back. I think his practice window is opening up, which is their safety. They got a rookie playing in that position right now. And then, we'll see when we get Kittle back. Pearsall should be back relatively soon. So they are going to need some help on that defensive line because obviously you lost Bosa. They lost Mato in this game with a hamstring. So they're losing guys. Michael Williams, if you haven't been tracking the Niners like I track the Niners, has been fantastic. Alfred Collins was really good in this one. So there's a lot of good young hope if you're a Niners fan on defense right now. That looks awesome. So, but yeah, no worry for LA, and Puka's still the best receiver in the league. And I just saw Gronk and Julian Edelman given saying Puka's maybe the best receiver in the league as well. So, anyway. Appreciate you guys for sticking with me. I know it's not what probably wasn't the best episode we've ever put down, but I wanted to come out here and not show up for you guys because we had a little bit of an issue before this week's episode aired. So appreciate you guys for coming in and checking it out. Like I said, I wasn't quite prepared to do this solo, so I just kind of went by the skin of my teeth there. So appreciate you guys. We'll be back next week at full strength. Hope you're there to join us. I'm Casey. This was the FFD. Peace.